What's up, guys, and welcome to the weekly Q&A. Our first question this week comes from David Asmo, who asks how word of Luke's actions on Crait spread throughout the galaxy so quickly. Were there any journalists in the Resistance? I think you wrote that second question kind of tongue-in-cheek, but actually, yes, there was at least one journalist in the Resistance. Her name was Suralinda, and she used to work for the Galaxy Beacon. She tried to infiltrate the Resistance to expose them as frauds and warmongers, and then she found out they were legitimately protecting the galaxy and that the First Order was a real threat, so she officially joined and helped them. Her story is told in the Poe Dameron comic, and it's still ongoing. It hadn't dawned on me until you asked this question with that exact wording that I was like, yeah, I can see that being completely plausible, that she would have had a hand in spreading Luke's legend, and I actually hope that that is later revealed to be the case. Omega Wolf wants to know if it's a smart move to go into Solo a Star Wars story, not expecting Han to be the exact same smuggler we know and love from the original trilogy. Yes, I think that's wise. Just like Luke changed significantly in the 30 years between Return of the Jedi and The Last Jedi, I think if we jump back 10 or however many years from A New Hope into Solo a Star Wars story, I think he's going to be different, and we might see how he became that person. So, yeah, I think if The Last Jedi taught us anything collectively, it's that we need to leave our expectations at the door and just do our best to try and enjoy the ride. Brendan Morris asks if I think Eli Vanto or the Chiss Ascendancy will be in the upcoming book Thrawn Alliances. I really hope so. I have always loved the Chiss Ascendancy, so I want to see what they're up to in the quote-unquote present of that story in the canon, but I wouldn't expect it to be the focus. I think the story is going to tell us about a mission that involves Thrawn and Vader teaming up, and then I'm also expecting probably flashbacks to the Thrawn and Anakin team up that was mentioned in the first Thrawn book, and maybe there we'll see what the Chiss Ascendancy was up to in the Clone Wars, and then we might get some communication between Thrawn and Eli or some other member of the Chiss in the present, but I'm just not I think it's going to be kept more to teases rather than anything super significant. Lewis D wants to know my take on Rey as a child watching her parents leave Jakku, and then Kylo telling her that they have paupers' graves on Jakku. Like, did they really leave, and did they come back, or what was going on there? I don't think Kylo knows who her parents were or where they're buried. I think he was just throwing out a bummer of a scenario to her. He was just saying your parents were nobodies, and they died nobodies. I don't think that they necessarily have a pauper's grave on Jakku, but they most likely have a pauper's grave somewhere in the galaxy. Kurt Wedden asks if anybody can see Force ghosts, or do they have to be Force sensitive? The real answer is we don't know, so I'm just going to give you my interpretation. I think that the Force ghost can pick and choose how they want to appear and who they want to appear to. Like, sometimes Obi-Wan is just a voice. Sometimes he's like a barely visible ghost, and sometimes he's completely visible. I think that Luke saw all the Force ghosts on Endor. I don't think, say, Leia or all the Ewoks did. But if they have that power to visibly manifest, I guess I don't see it as that much of a stretch for them to appear to anyone that they would want, but we also haven't seen any evidence of it, so that's just my best guess. That's it for patron questions. If you're a patron and you didn't see your question answered here, just head over to Patreon where I left you a written response. If you're not a patron, you can learn more by following the link in the description. Just $1 a month will get you access to extra Star Wars Explained content, like audio commentaries for the films, and we literally just released the commentary for Attack of the Clones. We are about to release Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope because we're just blowing through the tiers right now, which is insane and amazing, so quick thank you and shout out to all of my patrons. On to YouTube questions. Vanity Legend asks if I think Star Wars is currently suffering from a lack of one singular unified vision. Yeah, I think I would kind of agree with you there. It doesn't really bother me that they're going one film at a time. Throughout film history, that's just kind of how sequels were made. They would make it up as they went. That's how the original trilogy was pretty much made. But things are different now. I mean, we're used to Lord of the Rings filming all at the same time. We're used to, especially, I think what changed the game is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where we have all of these films that are building towards this one goal of the Avengers 2, and especially Infinity War. Like, every film that's led up to this point is about to culminate in Avengers 3 and 4. And I think that we have come to expect that as nerdy fans. So I don't necessarily think it's wrong that they take it one film at a time, but I do wish that they had sat down before they did The Force Awakens, and I wish they had just done a rough outline of all 3 films and said, here is the overall story we want to tell, and here is how we're going to break it up and do that. I think that it could have improved a few things, and I just think that that's how we as an audience are just used to it now. And so, yeah, I am kind of on that same page there, but that makes me look forward to Rian Johnson's trilogy, because it sounds like that's exactly what they're doing. He is going to write all 3 films. He might not direct them all, but this will be pretty much his vision. He is writing them all. He is producing them all. He might wind up directing them all. So it'll be interesting to see how his new trilogy with new characters is received when compared to the sequel trilogy. A Stupid Face wants to know if we're going to see Luke's Force Ghost in Episode 9. I think that's pretty likely. If you jumped back a year ago, my answer might have been different, but unfortunately, Carrie Fisher passed away, and I feel like we just have to have at least one member of the original Big 3 in the last film of the Skywalker saga. Even Rian Johnson said that he doesn't know what's going to happen, but as a fan, he would like to see Luke's Force Ghost. So I do think that's a likely thing. I don't think we've seen the last of Luke Skywalker. Plojamin Kun asks if Yoda force projected himself to Ezra in Star Wars Rebels. Yeah, I think so. I don't really know what else to call that. It's incredibly similar, but I also think that the circumstances were a little different. I mean, Yoda's on Dagobah. That's a planet that's well known to be incredibly strong in the Force. Ezra is at a Jedi temple. Again, that area is incredibly strong in the Force, so I feel like that would make their connection a little bit easier. And just what they were doing was different. It was more along the lines of Rey and Kylo talking. And also you can kind of see some of Yoda's surroundings, whereas Rey and Kylo couldn't see their surroundings. So there are some different aspects to the whole thing. But ultimately, I think that they are at least in the same, family of Force powers. Pumpkin wants to know if the average galactic citizen around the time of the Galactic Civil War knew about the events of the Jedi Civil War or the Mandalorian Wars or all those things from KOTOR and SWOTOR that happened 4,000 years ago. That's a really interesting question, and I would think that they probably know the basics. I bet most people know of this fallen/redeemed Jedi Revan, and they probably know the name The Mandalorian Wars. I think they know the basics because they were probably taught the basics in school. But I think that probably we as Star Wars nerds know way more about that period than the average galactic citizen would, and that's kind of funny. Red Kaio asks why Kylo claimed that Anakin's lightsaber belonged to him, even though he built his own lightsaber and used it as a Padawan. I think he just felt like Anakin's lightsaber was his birthright. It was his grandfather's lightsaber. Either he had seen it before, or maybe he just felt a familiar presence through the Force. I guess I think it's more likely that he had seen it, and he wanted it, and he felt like it belonged in his hands rather than in the hands of some random scavenger. That's all the time I have for questions today. If you want to leave a question for next week's video, just put it in the comments below or sign up for Patreon to join our weekly Q&A discussion, and make sure you check out all of the audio commentaries we've done so far, which include Rogue One, The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and now we got Revenge of the Sith, and A New Hope coming very soon. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.